I have my notes, I have my expert, and now we're going to talk about real estate marketing and what you need to do to sell your home in Miami in 2023. I'm David Siddons, and this is Better Decisions Podcast. Okay, we have known each other since 2016. I would like, Stephen, you to introduce yourself, tell the audience who you are, what you do, and then we're going to talk about marketing.
Sounds good. So my name is Stephen Matsumoto. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at IDX Boost and TREM Group. IDX Boost and TREM Group is a technology company that specializes in the real estate industry, and we are also a marketing agency that has led into becoming a data company.
Beautifully put. So we've known each other since 2016.
Yes.
And we've seen the marketing, Google marketing evolve. The whole purpose, if you're watching this video, this podcast, is to really communicate the understanding of what it is to do really good digital marketing in 2023.
Absolutely.
And what you need to do to go above and beyond listing with an agent who's just going to take your property, put it on the MLS with some pretty pictures and wait for the phone to ring. Worked for the last 2 years because we had an amazing run. It will not work for 2023. So if you need to hire a good marketing person, or you need to hire a good realtor, should I say, there's a whole part of this conversation that you've got to understand and process. And hopefully you'll say, okay, here's somebody who knows a thing or two about this whole arena. Back in 2016, the whole marketing machine, the digital marketing machine, the atmosphere. What is it that everyone will see? This is how live this is. I always do this. And actually, that wasn't even me this time. Fantastic. Usually it's me who does, the phone goes off. 2016. What was it that was happening in terms of like advertising that people were doing online for I guess, advertising to expose real estate? So and where has it gone?
That's a great question. That was probably the early stages of Facebook ads, things like that.
Yeah. And
a lot of it was SEO. SEO was in the earlier stages. It wasn't as complex. AI wasn't as evolved as it is today. So back then, it was as simple as just searching in Google, finding a property. Even above the fold, there wasn't too many ads.
So what does that mean, like in dummy terms? So someone's going online, they're going onto Google, they're looking for real estate. Like, what is it that they were seeing? Like, how does it appear?
So in the past, you would go to Google.
Okay.
You would type in Miami Beach homes for sale.
Okay.
Or Coral Gables homes for sale.
Okay.
And you would basically see Zillow at the top. There was no ads really. So you'd have Zillow, Realtor, or other websites.
You get your search results.
You get your search results. Yeah. So that was called organic.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, Google has evolved to such a huge level, and Zillow understands this. That's why Zillow is now running different types of advertisement. They're doing Facebook, they're doing commercials, radio commercials as well. And basically now what's called above the fold before on your computer, before you actually scroll down, now everything is an ad.
That's what you're seeing as you put in your little search term, let's say Coral Gables homes for sale, just one example. It's what you're seeing on your screen at that particular moment in time.
Correct. Before you even have to scroll down.
And why does that matter? Because the engagement at that level is, that's where it is.
Much higher. So 90% of people easily don't even realize it's an advertisement or sponsored organic result. A sponsored result versus an organic result.
Okay, so the search results above it are paid adverts.
Correct.
And I know this is kind of dummy terms, but for those who are kind of catching up with this, the initial result above is a paid advert, and then below that is organic, which is achieved by people who just have good websites that Google like and think are good websites.
Of course. And there's two facets of a website. So there's the facet of the human interaction, the user that sees the website, what your eye sees, and then what the Google bot sees. So it has to be kind of a combination of both. And there's over 200 different variables that Google reads to be able to rank organically that website in Google. So the difference, of course, is you don't pay for the click.
Okay, so I guess the first question, maybe we've jumped too far, is what does this even matter? Like, who cares? Because if I'm looking for a home, I just go onto Zillow and I just find houses on there, and then I just start calling agents. Why does any of this kind of stuff really matter?
So most people don't even start in Zillow; they start in Google. So that's how Zillow actually made their ability to all their wealth and traffic was through Google. And because Google has been changing their algorithm, that's why Zillow has had the need to change their digital presence. Yeah.
So back in the day when agents would like print glossy flyers and distribute them by mail drops through people's front doors, and then they would go to, I don't know, bake sales and charity events and just go and, you know, meet the neighbors. That was the old world way of doing things. I remember when I started, that seemed to be the way things were. How many, in terms of search, how many people start searching online when they look for a home? What's the percentage?
I believe the percentage is 97%. Nowadays, 97% of people start.
It's kind of a loaded question. Yeah, you know, that was like me asking a dumb question, knowing what the answer would be, because I think the fundamental takeaway is that you are buying a house, you are going online. Basically, it's pretty much 100% of the people who are looking for homes are grabbing their phone and they're putting in a search.
We do everything online, and there's all different types of searches. So people are all different stages of buyer life cycle. So some people are ready to buy now. Some people don't even know where they want to live. So it's very important what the person's typing in as well to know where they are in their buyer life cycle.
And the exposure that they're getting, obviously, once they start online, and again, we can start with Google and then we can expand into the other social medias. Because I think it's important to say that we're not just talking about Google here. I think that understanding good digital marketing, which is what we've been working together on for years, and the whole reason this podcast exists is because we understand that there's many areas within our digital eyeballs that we are seeing YouTube, and we're seeing Instagram, and we're seeing Facebook, and we're seeing Google, and we're seeing all these other different stimulus to make decisions.
Absolutely.
Or our decisions are being affected by these different social medias. And so we start off with the initial Google advert. And obviously I think that one thing that I've recognized is that we start with that initial search. And we were talking about this before. Let's use a working example here as people work through this, because they're thinking, okay, David, there's a lot of information here. I want to sell my house. Like, how are you going to sell my house? What are you going to do?
So if the seller that wants to sell their house puts themselves in the mindset of a buyer, a lot of these buyers in the past, there was no Zillow, there was no Google or anything. So you couldn't search the MLS. You had to go to a realtor to go to an offline database to find what was available. Nowadays, any user, whether they're in New York, Chicago, France, England, Colombia, they can search for homes in Coral Gables.
Yeah. And they'll put in Coral Gables homes for sale.
Exactly. And why that's a better keyword than just Coral Gables or Coral Gables real estate or so many different variables is because it has 3 variables that we like to go after when you're doing paid advertisement. It has a sub area. It's not as broad as Miami or Miami Beach, or as niche as a sub community. And it has the property type, homes, and then for sale, which is buyer intent. So those 3 variables are crucial in the type of traffic we want.
And there's many stratas within this, because we've sat down, and this is like a really big conversation, just so those who are watching this and understanding, as you're going through this process and saying, well, I just run an advert on Google, it's that easy. No. Yes, there's Coral Gables homes for sale. That is part of it. And then there's obviously the more drilled down search term, which would be waterfront Coral Gables homes for sale,
or Coco Plum homes for sale.
Coco Plum homes for sale, or brand new. And it just so happens that we've been writing so much content for so long that we happen to rank organically number 1 for a number of those searches. So I don't have to do Google adverts anymore. But the point is these are search terms that people look for. 100%. Now, once they've registered, or let's say they've clicked, once they've clicked, because that was jumping the gun there a bit, once they click, they obviously come through to the site. Thank you. Our site was voted the number 1 real estate website in Miami, actually in South Florida in 2021. And I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that we have a lot of content. We've been doing this since 2010, and I've just been writing and 2,000 articles and 100 reports and 600 videos. And Google, it's a juggernaut of information.
Absolutely. And
Google recognizes it as such, and therefore they rank us. Plus, there's obviously 1,000 other variables that we have to constantly get into, which is the fight for supremacy, because it's not like you can't just write it and leave it alone. It's like a kid.
Absolutely.
If you leave your kid alone for a week, they'll either wreck the house or starve to death, one of the two.
Burn it down.
Or burn it down, yeah. So you've got to then obviously keep nurturing it. But let's assume obviously they click on that and now they go through into your website.
Yes.
Then they're coming into results.
So let's take it back a step further. So we're talking about the buyers and why the seller wants to know all this information.
Yeah.
So what we've done on your website is we used to call it a hack box because we've been able to hack the second property when it pulls all the MLS properties. So I understand that the seller wants to sell their home, but the buyer doesn't necessarily want that home. So they want to see all the homes for sale that meet their criteria. But what we've done in that hack box is be able to provide a video or images always showcasing that property.
They like to shop around. No one comes in there and says, I'm buying that house. If they do, then that's great, because then I get the phone call straight from Zillow or Trulia, and it's great, and then I sell the house. But for the most part, just like any product that you buy, you're shopping around.
Absolutely.
It's the job of a good realtor or the digital expert to be able to direct them to the house that you're selling, and obviously give them a legitimate reason why they should be buying that house and not 100 other houses that are also available in the same neighborhood.
Absolutely, absolutely.
What you've done, what obviously I see that we've done as we work together, is find a way to bring them back around.
Absolutely.
But if they register, you have it links through into a database.
Yes. So basically, we've jumped a couple steps. So the very first was the impression. Somebody saw you on Google.
Yeah.
Next is the click, the traffic. So somebody now landed on your website. So of course, not all websites are built the same. Your website is superior and supreme to 99% of the websites out there.
Thank you very much.
So based on that user experience, when a user clicks on a property, we're able to what we call a forced registration, capture that user's information, name, email, phone number. They might not necessarily be saying, hey, David, call me with more information. But at that point, now we can do email marketing. We've also pixelated them with a Google tag, as well as a Facebook pixel and many other pixels, LinkedIn, Twitter, other ones.
And that pixelation, which is a term that if you don't understand it, you can Google it. It's worth a Google. Is really, really important to know, because that ability to capture that person's information without them actually having officially given you their name, their email address, and their telephone number allows you to reach back to them.
Correct.
Because people don't automatically make a decision, say, yeah, I'm going to buy that house, or I want to speak to that realtor. Most of the time, you have to build trust, like any relationship. 100%. And so that ability to come back round with again is actually that's the secret sauce. That's the magic.
Yes.
Because conversions generally don't happen on the first click through, do they?
No. And let's take it even to another industry. 99% of the time when you go to a website to buy shoes or bag or anything e-commerce related, you don't buy. There's something that Google created back in 2006 called the Zero Moment of Truth, the ZMOT. And basically there's 12 touch points between yourself and a brand before you actually make a purchase. And these are purchases where you can add a credit card.
And what year was this?
This was 2006.
Yeah. So let's put that into perspective. That's before all of this stimulus, this digital stimulus happened.
Yes.
So before I was selling a real estate, which I almost did under duress, I was running the marketing division for one of the world's biggest sports agencies, IMG. And back then, that was true. And I remember our boss was Mark McCormack, who's very, very famous, has written many Harvard business books. And it was all based off how do you sell effectively? And it was 12 to 15 touch points.
Absolutely.
I believe now it's double that. I believe now that what we're experiencing is that our resilience to actually go through a process of buying is not 15, it's more like 30. Because if I bought something every time I saw things 12 to 15 times, I'd be flipping broke. I'd have no money in my bank account. I'd be like the world's biggest binge spender. We have to learn how to filter that out.
Absolutely.
It's a survival instinct, a digital survival instinct, and we can't be just buying stuff willy-nilly. So now it's obviously far more resilient. But if you don't have this tool, what are you going to be, the realtor that's going to call someone 12 times? How annoying is that?
And it's not a very scalable strategy.
It's not scalable. It's not very skillable. I think one of the key things with this type of marketing is that there's a skill to this to be able to tap into the subconscious, not just the conscious mind. Our decisions are often sometimes subconscious. It's passive information that we draw in, that we process, that we hold, that grows our opinion or our view of something, someone, or some product to make us want to buy it. And I've always viewed that this is how we work effectively when we sell real estate. We're able to educate, layer people with a level of good information that helps them understand and trust us, whether it's understanding where the market's gone, a forecast report based off years of other predictive reports that actually predictions that came true that showed our effective ability to analyze markets, followed up with good observations about what's going on in the market, and then layer on top of that taking someone's individual property, their house, for example, and showcasing it beautifully with the right video, the right lighting, the right storytelling, not just about the house, but the neighborhood and where it sits and the schools and the lifestyle around and the quality of what it would be like to own that piece of real estate. It's essentially selling that dream. Absolutely. But we don't get there from just 0 to 1. It's not boom. There's many areas, digestion, if you will. So your marketing or your approach of marketing, once they've gone in and obviously they've seen some property, you're coming around again.
Yeah. So a lot of people, I think we spoke about this earlier, funnels are a tainted word nowadays.
Yeah. It's almost like how many times you go online and you see like no one does funnels. You don't call it a funnel. You view it differently. There's a different view for you.
I view a funnel more as a two-dimensional feature. For us, it's more of like an atom with the protons, neutrons, electrons constantly moving.
Explain why that would be.
It's because all your traffic is not only at different stages of their buying life cycle, but also at different stages in the relationship with yourself.
Yes.
So if it's my first time on your website, maybe I don't want to register. We go back to the pixelation of now we've put a cookie in the person's device and it's cross-device. So I can come on my computer and now see an ad on my phone. And the whole thing, it goes back to you're not going to walk into a restaurant, walk up to the first guy or girl and say, hey, do you want to get married? You have to basically build a relationship. Hey, hi, how are you? You build, and that's the same with business. In business is you don't say, hey, what do you want to buy? I don't even know who you are. Let me see. Right now I'm just looking at properties.
Trust, isn't it? I mean, you don't trust someone just from meeting them the first time. Trust
exactly
takes time to be built.
So let's say the forced registration comes up. Hey, I don't want to give you my information. I leave, but now I can see you on Bloomberg. I see you on Forbes. I see you on Wall Street Journal. I see you on Instagram. I see you on YouTube. I see you on Facebook.
And you can do that with people's properties as well.
Yes.
Like if I want to expose someone's property,
100%.
I can expose it on these mediums. And I say this rhetorically because I do exactly that. But there's also other facets as well, because you can't hit someone with the same message.
No, of course. And not only that, you can narrow it down because your website is so large, you can get so many different types of traffic. Maybe we create audiences just of the people that landed on pages related to Coral Gables or waterfront homes or gated communities or certain variables that match the criteria of the home we're trying to feature. So instead of all 50,000 or 100,000 people in our audience, we focus on the 10,000 that meet the criteria of the people that we want.
Well, this is what I say to clients when I'm getting hired as a listing agent. I say, look, I'm not just out there to sell your home. I'm selling your home. That's the end result. But in order to sell your home, I also have to sell sometimes the market. I have to sell the lifestyle. I have to sell everything. And that's why I spent best part of 15 years writing articles such as the safest neighborhood for families. Go Google it. You'll see the results. Or I might look the best condos in Miami. Go Google that. You'll see what I mean. Or the best new construction condos. Guess what? Google that and you see what I mean. But the whole point is that there's a lot of storytelling that needs to be told to explain the wider picture. And the product and the client who's coming through is not necessarily just straight out of the gate coming through like Coral Gables Homes to sell. Yes, they may do. That's obviously a far more kind of further down the process thinking. But there are some people saying, and that this is really true right now, and it still happens, people who are moving here. You helped us with our marketing. In 2021, we had 149 relocation families bought with us. 149. That's like one every 2 days. That was possible because we were writing these reports and we were writing this storytelling about the neighborhoods, and people are going online and going, where's the best place to live in Miami? Or Miami Real Estate Report, or news, or trends, or whatever it was. And again, that's what people were looking for. And then they would like, who do I trust? And then once they meet the person that they trust, then they're like, help me find a house.
The person that provided them value.
Exactly, the value. It's all about that. Adding value.
Even Zillow and Realtor.com know this. Zillow owns greaterschools.org. Realtor owns niche.com. So they're also trying to go after this tactic. But the problem with them is
so that's why I have trouble with these guys. Okay, I understand now.
Yeah,
it is. It's a really big animal.
Remember, they're an everyman to everybody. You're a specialist. That's the key.
And that's the thing, like, this isn't something that you can just, again, I know people come to you and say, okay, I'm going to hire you and you are going to make me great. You're going to make me a great realtor. Unless you do the work yourself, unless you're investing in trying to be smarter, more educated, more educating to the audience and better at adding value, it doesn't matter what you do. It's not going to resonate. It's not going to make them want to pick up the phone and call or register their private information.
It's 100%. You're going through my daily pains. I have clients that go for nearly the same types of searches, properties, things. They have nearly the same types of leads. There's no cross marketing whatsoever. Everybody owns their own leads, their own infrastructure, but it's just their follow up. I have clients that they won't let you off the phone. They won't let you hang up. I've seen 20-minute phone calls. Those are sharks. And then I've seen other agents that will call once in 2 months to a lead that's been on the website 20 times.
Yeah.
And they'll say it doesn't work, but it'll only work as far as you.
It's very true. The follow-up is key. We'll track, and this is one of the great things about having the right database. And I think that when you capture leads, and again, I've built this system whereby after 15 years, I know Google retains the historical IP information up to about 18 months. Is that correct?
So in what reference?
So if someone doesn't register on your website and you capture their IP.
540 days.
540 days, I'm sorry.
180 days for Facebook.
Okay, so 540 days. So if you've got a lot of website visitors over the last 540 days, that is a huge number of people that you can be retargeting to.
Correct.
And that's why, if you're watching this and you live in these markets, give me a call and I'll show you how many people visit my website over the last 540 days. It's really good to know how much traction you have in the market. It's not just about built a pretty website today and now I'm going to have business tomorrow.
Correct.
Your net worth is your network. And your network isn't necessarily the people that you happen to have on your phone that you can call. It's also your digital network.
100%.
And the power of the digital network, in my mind, has meant that going out and competing against agents who, are doing social events and meeting people one-on-one and doing the follow-up phone calls, then competing against my 540 days of people visiting my website, looking at my articles, reading my reports, is like bringing a knife to a gunfight. I will outbeat you, outman you every single day and twice on Sunday, because the amount of people that I can expose your property to is so much more than these other agents.
Not only that, I also want to add the fact that you're not tied down to geographic barriers.
Not at all.
Your network and anyone else that, of course, does this strategy as well can target anyone in the world. So we live in South Florida, so a lot of our business comes from overseas, comes from out of state, things like that. So over the past 2 years, the best buyers were coming from New York, Chicago.
So let's talk about geofencing. This is actually a really cool part to get into, because the whole understanding of it's not just about people searching online and finding you randomly, because there could be some yeehaw in the middle of nowhere who's living in a cave. He's got, for some reason, he's got internet access, but he's living in a cave and he's Googling, I want to live in Coral Gables because I don't like my cave anymore. Okay, the guy can't afford a house in Coral Gables, so I don't want him. But we're able now, because of the way, and Google's obviously got very smart, and I realize that laws have changed. Very strict. And
Facebook's even worse.
Yeah. And we used to be able to just put in a zip code and voila.
Yes.
Now they've become a lot more, restrictive, but
especially after the whole Cambridge Analytica thing.
Yes, yeah. So if you don't know the whole Cambridge Analytica thing, go and Google it. That's all about the whole, the political arena and what happened with whether you want to call it Brexit or if you want to call it other elections. That's a whole other conversation. But long story short, there's a manipulation of human behavior through marketing,
100%.
Digital marketing. What we try to obviously do is we are trying to go after the right audience, who is the right people who are going to buy that house.
Correct.
By virtue of income, by virtue of geography and other variables that we can kind of work to, their interests, for example.
And the reason is no matter how large our budget is, nobody has an unlimited budget. And we want to always utilize our marketing budget as efficiently as possible so that we can provide better results in a quicker amount of time.
Yeah, it's expensive. I mean, I think it's fair to say that, if you come into an arena and you're hiring someone to sell your home and they're like, okay, I do digital marketing, great, but you better come with a big fat wallet, because the thing about it is that you have to have a cast iron stomach. I'll tell you from a personal perspective, when you're running adverts and you're plowing through 20 grand a month, And again, I can say this, that the reason big teams do well over individual agents is because we make enough of an income. I think last year I spent about $2.5 million on marketing. It's very hard for most agents can't individually do that. They don't have the budget to spend $2.5 million every single year on marketing. You can do that if you're drawing enough income in.
Absolutely.
And you can pull it in, and then obviously you can capture but the curation of the advertising and the creation of the message and the communication of where it's going to and who's seeing it
is crucial.
Yeah. Because of what you're spending. Otherwise, you could just plow,
Yeah.
$3 or $4 a click sometimes.
That's why at the very beginning of this conversation, you said, "Oh yeah, Google Ads. Anybody can turn on Google Ads. Anybody can spend a whole bunch of money."
Yeah,
on
if
Google.
you've got a thumb, if you've got opposable thumbs, which means you don't even have to be a human being, you could be a primate, you can run Google adverts.
And spend a lot of money. I've heard horror stories.
Yeah.
But that's where there's so many moving pieces, and sometimes to the untrained eye, it's difficult to really see until you go step by step, user experience, lead
And
capture,
so we target the geo
retargeting, remarketing.
area. And again, the great thing, look, if you understand anything about Miami real estate, you understand that the migrationary aspect of people coming into Miami to buy is a huge facet still today of who's buying real estate. The guy moving from Connecticut. I was with people yesterday. They came in from, where was it? Somewhere cold. I remember that. It was somewhere really, really cold.
Especially it's December right now.
Yeah, it was
January.
it was somewhere pretty freezing, and they came in from, I think it was like Ohio or somewhere like that, and they had found us online digitally. They were looking for real estate, and they figured, like, where do I want to be? And obviously, we have a team of 11, so we have territory managers all the way up the coastline. We're writing articles on all different neighborhoods, and then we kind of filtered them down to like the right group, the right area for them to buy into.
And I want to add to what you're saying as well is anybody can capture a lead essentially. That doesn't mean that the person's ready to buy or even interested or even has the ability to buy. What you get to benefit off of because of your years of building your network is people are reaching out to you as opposed to you reaching out to them. So what we've been able to do, and going back to the capturing of the lead, is if somebody hasn't necessarily been captured, we pixelate them so we can retarget them so they can keep coming back. If we have captured the lead, we keep following up with them to the point where we make a conversation. At that point, most people are very welcoming, either yes, I'm buying, or no, I'm not buying. And once they are buying, we're able to narrow down based off of their off of what their actual search is. So, hey, I'm looking for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom, 2.5 million to 3 million is my budget. So maybe they want a beachfront or something of that nature. And it's really about going back to the data and once we capture that user's information, we have all the data about not only that person, but what they're searching. So even if they haven't necessarily called us, we haven't made a conversation, they're coming back to your website. They're searching for properties.
And tracking is, I got here, big note, like capitals, tracking behavior.
And there's many things to track. There's many things to track. And in real estate, we have our quantity KPIs and our quality KPIs, and I'll get into that in a second. But once you capture that lead, we funnel all that data to your CRM, where in your CRM, you're able to see not only where the user is physically located, the areas they're looking at, the price points, the properties, how many times they're returning back to your website, how long they're staying on your website. And all these are crucial factors, especially to feed back to the AI, because now we're going to get more traffic related to that.
That's why turning on and off certain, we do this with adverts all the time. We're turning off some adverts, we're turning on some adverts, we're turning up the volume on some, adding more budget, we're reducing budgets over in other areas, all because we're understanding the quality of the leads as they come through and the tracking of the behavior, where they're coming from, who they are, what their intent, how long they're staying on the website, what properties they're looking at.
100%.
All this, and this is anybody who wants to ask me, who's a client who's thinking, hey, I think I might want to use you. If you want me to show you this stuff, we'll do a Zoom call. I'll show you. I'll show you these screens.
You give me a call. I'll go on with you.
Yeah, it's really. I mean, we tend to geek out a lot and over this area because it's a passion, but it's such a valuable piece of being a good professional. Knowing how to sell product is understanding who your audience is.
Absolutely.
Know who they are, what they're looking at, why they're looking at it, and then if you want to reach back to them, whether it's a phone call or whether it's a form of retargeting. And again,
it'll be a much better conversation.
Retargeting and remarketing. What is that to understand? Because that's where, again, that some of that real connect happens.
Absolutely.
Give us an example of some of the give me some example of my retargeting that you've put out there.
So yours is very particular because you have so much content and so many different verticals. But
a vertical being a form of communication,
and a different pain point, I guess.
like a podcast.
Yeah, yes. So that would be a channel. A vertical would be more like how you focus on the new developments, or then you focus on the schools or the neighborhoods, things like that. So different pain points for different
different triggers
essentially. So we can segment different audiences.
Yes.
And different audiences can fall into the same into multiple segments, but like that we're able to kind of filter who falls into.
Yeah, it's complicated stuff. I think it's fair to say there's a lot of into that. But let's use an example of someone goes on and looks at Coral Gables homes for sale, but they don't register, and then they just go off about their daily business.
So that's retargeting. So that's a huge difference between retargeting and remarketing. Retargeting basically...
He caught me on... I was trying to trick him in here, but he actually caught me on that. Okay, so sorry. Please continue.
No, so retargeting is basically the person lands on the website, they are traffic, but they haven't initially done an action on the website. So provide a name, email, phone number. So we call that either a complete registration, a cold lead, or a sign up. But that's how we feed the data back to Google and Facebook in the actual conversions. And a hot lead is a form fill or form submission. And basically that's somebody asking to be contacted. But to go back to the retargeting, basically now the person lands on the website, they don't want to provide their name, email, phone number, they leave. Now they're reading the Wall Street Journal, they're reading Bloomberg, they're on YouTube watching a video or something. So you have either display, which is very common. You have your banner ads. Hey, download, check out the Miami Real Estate Report 2023, the forecast.
Yeah, so you got so you got several types as well. You got like in-stream, and then you've got...
That's a video on YouTube.
That's a video, yeah, exactly.
And so you have videos and then you have display, and then the whole point, and I actually want to go back one step further, why we don't actually use social media for cold traffic. Because the only person that you want to see your retargeting ad has already typed in something in Google related to what they're interested in.
Yeah.
So if they've already searched Coral Gables homes for sale, now the person that's going to see this ad is interested in a home for sale in Coral Gables. If you just go to Facebook, especially with all this regulation, Mark Zuckerberg had to go under through Congress and things like that, the chances of you finding the correct audience are slim to none.
That's why I don't like that. That's why people mistake, and I see people come along and they use buzzwords, and it's very common. They'll go, I run display adverts on Facebook. Well, how are you doing that? How is that part of your funnel? Where is that in the process? It's unfortunately really misunderstood, and I think that the key in all of this is understanding at what point you're communicating with your audience and how you're doing it with that particular message, rather than just randomly firing off display adverts on Facebook to your grandma in England.
I've seen it before. It's like you could do an advert. Let's say you pick in Facebook. You can't actually. The minimum is 15-mile radius. In the past, I could pick a zip code and pick everyone between a certain age and a certain income prior to the Cambridge Analytica thing. But now, it's very difficult. So let's say I pick everybody in New York City within a 15-mile radius. I can't segment by age. I can't segment by gender. I can't segment by income levels or of any sort. So basically everybody in that, it's a billboard. It's a digital billboard nowadays.
But that's why retargeting is so much better.
Correct.
And that's why I would say, if you're selling a house with me and I've got your house listed on the market and we've got a whole group of people that have been pixelated following the little breadcrumb trail of what we were discussing before. They've been pixelated. Now we're going back in and we are reaching out and exposing your property or our message about the neighborhood or your property to them again to draw them back in to re-engage with them.
Correct.
And that's the difference, because this is now someone that we've identified as a real potential buyer of a Coral Gables home. 100%. And you do this on scale, and you're talking hundreds and hundreds of people, thousands of people.
No, yeah, your audience is probably 100,000 people easily.
Yeah, and that's where the beauty lies, because now you're curating your message because you know who you're wanting to talk to.
And sometimes we don't even want to go after all 100,000. We want to start segmenting based off of what.
Well, we have that actually. Like we get into our segments of our. It's very sophisticated. Our advertising segments, how they're broken down. We'll have neighborhoods. We'll have submarkets. We'll have hyper-focused submarkets of even, let's say, a specific building. A particular product type.
We're actually working on some special AI for David, and it's actually going to be correlated to the articles that interest you. and everything that you're doing, it's called data structured data.
And this doesn't exist anywhere else.
Nowhere else.
No one.
Nowhere
So
else.
no
You're
one in
gonna
the
be doing-
world has this.
We're building this just for you.
Okay, cool. So this is like a whole bag of tricks that no one has. So you can talk to any realtor you like, and they're not going to have this. Why are we able to do
And even
this?
Zillow has it.
Okay, so yeah, exactly. So Zillow doesn't have anything on us in regards to this. This is the great thing. This has only been possible because of the amount of content that we churn out.
Correct.
And this is an 800-pound gorilla that started off as a little baby thing that we started to feed. We thought it'd be fun as a little science project, and this thing just grew and grew and grew, and now it's this massive King Kong. And it's information, it's education. That's why we write. So again, we have this conversation. I say it openly. Anyone can do this. But you better be prepared to absolutely put in the hours and the labor and the effort and the study and be learned, because that's what it's going to take for you to create this kind of, again, what we're talking about is this carousel of educational content that you're going to be exposed to once you've visited the site, and you're going to see the messages about the market in a rotational way. That means that you're always going to see something new, something interesting, something potentially engaging.
And with our AI, it's going to be correlated to what interests you specifically, if that makes sense.
Which is even better.
Yes.
Now, I know big companies have been doing this for a few years now. I mean, you can look at Nike and you can look at some like billion-dollar multinational companies.
They do it at the product level, but we're doing it for your content level.
Yeah. Well, they like.
We already have it at the product level.
I always say, like, if you ever buy a pair of shoes, as an example, you know, go out and buy a pair of Nike shoes, or if you go to the Nike website and just look at a pair of Nike sneakers, guess what? They're going to show you 5 or 6 different Nike sneakers that you might like, aside from the ones that you were looking at.
Exactly.
This is kind of much the same thing, but it's on rotation of information, news.
Correct.
And that's actually, in my mind, the real pull.
And what most people don't even understand is I can show you similar things, but there's correlations, and this is how Google's algorithm actually works, is you're giving them the best data, how long you stay and you look at something, how many pictures you look at, how far down on the page you scroll. When you start sitting there analyzing what you really like, your subconscious, like we were speaking before, that's where Google will find the data to show you the next articles or the next products.
And the data and the information that you go through, again, that's why we built proprietary softwares that allow people to go into our website and get information that is live, up to the minute accurate. Because if you're trying to read a report and it's written a year ago, it's no longer relevant, or even 6 months ago, or even 3 months ago. So again, this live data feed will give you that information right to what's happening at today or tomorrow, or whatever day you're looking at. And so hopefully the appreciation of this scale, this complexity of marketing it's not for the faint-hearted. It's not easily done. It's not easily understood. And I feel like sometimes I want to, sit in front of clients, and that's why I wanted to really do this video. And thank you for coming in and doing it with me. It's very custom. It's very curated. It's very specific. It takes a lot of time and energy, but by God, does it work?
Absolutely. The numbers speak for themselves.
The numbers speak for themselves, and the ability to convert and the exposure information is why I say that David Siddons Group is more of a media company than a real estate company. It's content providers. We just happen to sell real estate as a nice side effect. We could go on all night talking about this. In fact, we usually go into this rabbit hole when we're building out our campaigns.
Brainstorming.
But I want to thank you for coming in and doing this podcast with us today. I know that if any of you out there watching this and you want to know a little bit more and say, look, get specific about my home and what you're going to do, I'll come and sit in front of you and I'll explain what we do in terms of marketing. Hopefully it makes you understand it's a little bit more complex than what sometimes people think. And stay tuned for more of our news, more of our reports. Hopefully you'll watch this and then you'll get retargeted too. And stay tuned for another episode coming soon of the Better Decisions podcast. Stephen, thank you for coming in.
Thanks, David.
Cheers, buddy. Pleasure. Thank you.